Well, the price of Brent crude oil has surged back above $100 a barrel as mixed signals over potential US-Iran talks fuel fresh volatility. And the US President Donald Trump claimed that the US and Iran had a productive conversation. Tehran denied any contact and accused Trump of trying to manipulate the markets. Well, for more on this, let's speak to Tim Sahay, who is the co-director of the Net Zero Industrial Policy Lab at Johns Hopkins University. Welcome to TRT World. So much to discuss with you this hour. I just want to start with the Strait of Hormuz. We've heard that Iran has told the International Maritime Organization member states that non-hostile vessels may transit the Strait of Hormuz if they coordinate with Iranian authorities. We've also heard in the past 2 hours that Trump is sending 3,000 airborne troops to the Gulf. What is all of this going to do to the price of oil, which is still over $100 a barrel today?
Yeah, the price of oil is just reflecting the fact that we are facing the largest oil and energy shock in global history. So that's the International Energy Agency telling us that, because it's just the quantity of oil and gas that is trapped behind Hormuz is 20 to 30% of the world's supply. So that's trickling out. It's not rushing out. And until that remains the case, oil prices will remain very high, pushing up prices globally.
And when you say trickling, who is getting it? I understand China and India are still receiving some oil and gas. What more can you tell us about the quantities that they're getting?
Yeah, I mean, you've had basically 1 or 2 tankers leave. So this is a situation where we used to have 20 million barrels a day leave Hormuz, and now you're down to 1 or 2. So that's what I mean by the size of the shock. And individual nations may try and negotiate with the Iranians to let 1 or 2 ships through, but that just doesn't make a big enough dent in the magnitude of the oil and gas tankers that used to leave before.
And how is that reshaping the global energy trade markets right now?
I mean, this is where I think it's sort of important to remember that it's not just the oil and gas energy markets that are suffering, but also larger commodity flows. So everything from helium that is used to scrub and clean chips. So the clean energy economy and the chip economy in Asia is also suffering, to sulfur, where the sulfur that was coming out of the refineries can no longer leave the Gulf. So that sulfur is affecting markets in the metal world. So this is a broad commodity shock. And perhaps the largest one is fertilizers, where something like 30% of the world's urea that used to be exported is no longer being exported. So you're having problems where farmers are unable to get their hands on fertilizers at a time during the planting season in the Northern Hemisphere. So this is now turning what everyone thought for the first couple of weeks was, it'll just be short and sharp. But this is now going to be long, painful, disruptive to the whole global economy, not just the energy markets.
Just if you can expand a bit on this, Tim. So is it no helium, no sulfur and fertilizer at all getting through the Strait of Hormuz, and what will that mean exactly? Where is everything, all of these things used exactly?
Yeah. I mean, so this is largely used in industries, right? So a lot of these are industrial commodities. So gas is not being directly used in people's homes unless it's cooking gas in Asia, where we are seeing a lot of disruption. But gas is being used as power. Gas is being used to make fertilizers. And so if 30% of the world's LNG and gas is trapped, then you're basically finding a mad shortage across industries in Europe and Asia, largely, that were the biggest buyers. So, some of the strongest effects have been in the fuel markets, in the refined fuel markets. So that's petrol, that's diesel, that's jet fuel in particular. And these are commodities that, it's being used by industries, it's being used by farms, it's used by truckers. So that's what I mean by a widespread long disruption, because people are unable to get their hands on 20 or 30% of what they used to get. So if you have that dramatic level of a supply shock, you basically get a reduction in demand by the same amount for supply and demand to balance. And that is what economists and oil analysts call demand destruction. And that's a word that you're going to hear a lot all across Asia and across Europe.
Demand destruction. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. And thank you so much for coming on the programme. Tim Sahay, thank you.